And you're back with us at Albert Park, Melbourne. Around about 130,000 people leaving very quietly indeed after an accident involving a track marshal. As soon as we know the extent of the injuries, we will let you know, of course, but no champagne after Michael Schumacher's victory here. Overall impressions, first of all, you, Mark.
Overall, I thought it was quite a good Grand Prix. I mean, there was lots of action, a few overtaking manoeuvres. Reliability, big issue. Not many people finished, which is a problem, but the key players in the game, Ferrari and McLaren, got their cars to the end.
Let's go to the press conference.
Australian Grand Prix, it's the winner Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello. I wonder, Michael, perhaps you just give us a simple story of your race, please.
Obviously, I had a great start. We worked hard over winter about that, and as you see, it worked out well, very well. I was quite pleased about this. Then I just tried to split my race into a kind of rhythm to be fast when I had to be fast and not overdrive the car when it was unnecessary. Obviously, we then had the safety car situation, and unfortunately, we just been told that the marshal did die, and obviously we're all shocked about this, and we have to look at what is possible from our side, what kind of support we can give, but certainly everybody is very much down for this situation.
Michael, thank you, and David, a quick word from you.
Well, obviously the overriding story of the race is, as Michael's just mentioned, the fatality of the marshal, and I think on behalf of all the drivers, our thoughts go to him and to his family. And we need to obviously study how we can improve track safety to these people who give their time for us to enable us to go racing. That to one side, I had a fairly straightforward race to pick up 6 points, but you know that seems pretty insignificant when there's a loss of life involved.
Thank you, David. And finally, Rubens.
Well, I mean, it's always, you know, to score some points to begin with is quite good, but you know, we're definitely not happy just because what Michael and David said. It's very bad when a colleague that is there for you, you know, happens to be in an incident like that. So my thoughts are all with him and with his family, and I think there's no way that we can make up for this race.
Thank you, gentlemen. Perhaps just a word in your own languages from Michael and Rubens. Thank you, Michael.
There we are then, Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello, really reflecting very sombre mood here at Albert Park, Melbourne, where a track marshal has been killed in the first Grand Prix of 2001. We'll be right back. You're back with us at Melbourne, where Michael Schumacher has won the first Grand Prix of the season, but tragically a track marshal has lost his life. Craig Pollock, top man at BAR, is joining us now. Craig, Jacques Villeneuve, of course, your man was very much involved in that incident, and I would think there's a deep sense of shock down there.
At the end of the race, we're going to be celebrating something, and it's never nice when somebody dies. I would just like to send sincere condolences to the family. There's not much we can say because we don't know the full circumstances round about the accident, exactly how it happened, why it happened, but it's just a very, very sad thing when somebody dies.
But just like Paolo Ghislimberti at Monza, it seems to be in a tyre that has caused the marshal's death. That shouldn't happen, really.
Well, unfortunately, it is a dangerous sport. The tyre did come off the car. Obviously, the car was fully legal. It is very sad.
Any lessons? I know it's very, very early indeed, but any conclusions that you can draw at this stage?
I think it's impossible to draw conclusions if you don't have the full facts. But I think at the moment, certainly what our team are doing, we've reunited everybody. They've been fully informed that this has happened, and they'll be thinking about this poor person who's not there anymore. So I'm thinking about the family.
We appreciate you joining us. Thanks very much indeed, Craig. Let's just have a look at the accident itself, Tony. And when it happened, we saw it was obviously a high impact crash.
Massive impact. They're doing about 170 odd miles an hour down there in 7th gear. We heard Villeneuve talking about seeing Ralph there in the middle of the track, and Villeneuve having to decide which way to go. He chose the option in a fraction of a second, clipped the back of the Williams BMW, and how the car didn't go over as well, I have no idea. But the point that we need to talk about now is the double wheel tethers which have been put in place. If, in fact, it was a wheel that hit the Marshall, there's double wheel tethers in place this year, and it's meant to be designed to stop them coming off.
Mark?
I think there are two schools of thought on that. I mean, years ago there was no tethers, and at some point the wheel would come off, and it would come off very quickly. Now there's some possibility that the tether's in place, and maybe it restricts the wheel on the car for maybe too long, and then when it does come off, it comes off at extra velocity. But let's be clear, we don't know whether the wheel was involved.
Jim, all I'd say on that is that it's 9 millimetres, these two sort of ropes, if you like, which steel hawser type ropes, which go all the way through the wishbones, then are anchored deep down in the chassis. If they're pulled on together, it's a resistance of something like about 9 tons, which it should be able to resist. And the second one that should be in place. But as some of the mechanics pointed out to me, when the suspension gets sheared, it can also shear through the cords as well, and that could have happened. We can only speculate at this point.
Is the sheer speed that we've seen here this weekend in any way to blame?
No, I mean, that's just racing. I mean, you know, technology, progression, there's a reduction in downforce, there's less drag, cars cleaner through the air, there's more grip from tyres, there's more speed, but that's an accident which could have happened whether you were doing 100 miles an hour and maybe not 150, but the consequences are grave, and you know, it's certainly a tough thing.
Let's reflect the race itself, and before we leave it, everybody, what about when the safety car came out for, what was it, 25 minutes, wasn't it, Mark? How big an effect did that have?
It's a big effect on the race completely. Everybody tactically has to put their heads in gear and see what they can do with fuel, tyre wear, but the boys at Ferrari did it the best, and they came off well, but it's something I can reflect on very easily.
And Michael Schumacher, although he's very sad up there, understandably so, I mean, his season is off and running.
Yeah, and as we were saying at the beginning of the programme, if it's a big role for Ferrari, as McLaren may fear, this is the sort of start that Ferrari would want. And it's all based around the continuity. And there's one guy that was mentioned briefly, who's Paolo Martinelli, who's done such incredible work on the Ferrari engine. And that whole car has evolved over the winter. Incredible amount of work. They were almost the last here, Ferrari, which raised speculation as to the fact that they might not have passed their crash impact tests, but apparently they had no problem at all. So they were still unsure that the car would go the full distance. 41 laps into their last test at Mugello, the gearbox went, so that didn't give them good thoughts before they arrived.
The problem that you've got now is that McLaren will be going home scratching their heads. Mika Hakkinen came off the racetrack very fast, and we don't know why yet, and that's going to rest on their minds all the way back for Malaysia.
And he went hard into the tyres as well, Hakkinen, down there, and he was. We heard Adrian Newey talking before. He was a little bit maybe concussed, so that's food for thought for him.
Right, Tony, Mark, thank you very much indeed. Let me just remind you there is another chance to see the race at 1:30 this lunchtime. Highlights just before midnight, and a repeat of the highlight show, as always, on ITV2 at 7 o'clock. Well, Michael Schumacher has thrown down the red gauntlet here, but all our thoughts are with the track marshal who has given his life at the first Grand Prix of 2001. Good night, you all.